himself, or is it the team as well at this point?
It's Carson Wentz. By the way, where's Orlovsky? It's Carson Wentz. Remember when Dan held up that L, guys? He took the L on Wentz.
Yeah.
People don't know in the media you actually do have influence. I believe when media enablers for Carson Wentz start admitting, okay, he's bad, that actually gives coach the cover he needs to sit him down. I'm not kidding. I think that's correlated. I don't think that's independent. Coach finally sat him down. And by the way, talk about a day late and a dollar short. I told you a month ago, sit Wentz, hold him accountable. I told you a year ago the stuff I'm hearing coming out of Philly about Wentz changing plays and really running his offense, not Peterson's. I told you last year he was regressing. Hey, everyone, don't enable him and tell him how great he is so he doesn't have to work on anything. He's broken beyond repair. I do not believe in Carson Wentz's future. Guys, Howie Roseman had questions too. It's not that, well, Roseman drafted a quarterback and now that affects Wentz's confidence. Roseman drafted a quarterback because he knew, like, we hitched our star to this guy's wagon. I don't know. We need to do something. Spent a second-round pick. Remember, didn't trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Didn't want to give up the second-round pick. Didn't use it to trade up and get the best receiver possible. Didn't draft someone on the defense. Drafted Wentz's replacement. Now, I told you bench Wentz a month ago so that you can send his message to the team. I compared it to McNabb's benching Stephen A., which I know you remember in Philly, and he took them that season to his 5th NFC championship game. He was held accountable. Wentz wasn't. Wentz was told how great he was. Wentz was coming out talking about, that's just the way we do things around here. You want to blame that on the coach or the GM or anyone else? That's ridiculous. Stephen A., you know what I'm saying now? Forget about benching Wentz to fix him. Forget about benching Wentz to try to win the next game. I don't know if Hurts is ready or not. You have to sit Wentz necessarily for the rest of this season to see whether Jalen Hurts can be your quarterback going forward or whether you have to use your top 5 or 6 pick to draft a quarterback, because Carson Wentz is over. Finished. It's over. Too much to fix at this point. I warned everybody.
Well, first of all, I disagree with you. I don't think he's finished. I don't think it's over in terms of his career. He's 27, 28 years of age. He's got a whole career ahead of him, and I don't think he's finished. I think this has been a horrific season. I definitely think he has some blame. Where I disagree with you is when you confine it to him as opposed to the Eagles organization. You bring up the fact that, okay, they drafted his backup. Well, maybe if you went out and you got the DK Metcalfs when you could have, or an A.J. Brown or somebody of that ilk, and you gave him a multitude of weapons, maybe he would look a little bit better. Maybe if you wasn't savaged with injuries last year, maybe he would have looked a little better. Maybe, just maybe, if you didn't go to Jeffrey Lurie and sit up there and say, give this guy all of this money, all right, taking into account all the things you have mentioned about him changing plays, not listening to coaches, or as Rex Ryan said this morning on Get Up, this penchant for thinking he knows everything. These are all things that were known about Carson Wentz before the Eagles organization elected to give him that long-term contract with such exorbitant dollars. When we praise Dak Prescott, what is it that we praise? Why is it that we got on Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones for not reaching a long-term accord with this guy? It wasn't just because he passed for 4,900 plus yards last year, 30 touchdowns, just 11 interceptions, and he had continued to show an upside, taking them to the playoffs 2 times in his first 3 or 4 years. It's because Dak Prescott proved he was trustworthy. He proved that he was a leader. He proved that he could galvanize the troops in the locker room. There were no debates going on within the locker room as to whether it should be Carson Wentz or Nick Foles. There were no debates about, oh my goodness, who's liked more or whatever. Dak Prescott was that dude. He was that dude on the field. He was that dude in the locker room. He was a leader. He was trustworthy. And so if there were questions about that with Carson Wentz, you knew it if you were Howie Roseman. You knew it if you were Doug Peterson. But you went upstairs to Jeffrey Lurie, because as somebody that worked in Philadelphia for 17 years, as somebody that was a columnist covering the Philadelphia Eagles, who have spoken to Jeffrey Lurie on several occasions, one of the things that I know, he's the boss. He's the final say. He's a true leader, but he is somebody that understands delegating responsibility to those below him. He has to let them do their job. And there's no way he would have given Carson Wentz that money if it wasn't signed off by the guys below him advising him to do that.
Look, I'm not.
And so that's a culpability and that's a responsibility that cannot be ignored. You can't look at Carson Wentz and him regressing to the level that he has and just point the finger at him when there's coaches around him who have a responsibility to help him avoid that.
I'm not absolving Peterson or Roseman. I've been very clear. They all got to go. Peterson, by the way, got the 4th best run-blocking O-line in the league, and he won't give the ball to Sanders or Scott? You got a stud in Sanders, a change-of-pace guy in Scott, and you won't give the ball to him? But by the way, that's on Peterson, no doubt, because he keeps trying to get Carson Wentz going. Everything revolves around Wentz. By the way, people who are blaming the Eagles' offensive line, nonsense. The Eagles' offensive line, in terms of pass-blocking win rate, is 12th in the league. They're an upper 50%, almost top 3rd team in terms of pass blocking win rate because they have a very good offensive line, and he can get nothing done in the pocket. It's on Wentz, Stephen A. Now, is it 100% on Wentz? I detailed Roseman's problems, Peterson's problems, the media enabling Wentz. But come on, man. How many apologies, how many apologists does Carson Wentz
Well, wait a minute.
This
what do
is
you mean the
ridiculous.
media
He has
enabling
an immovable...
Wentz? What does that mean? What do you mean the media enabling Wentz?
Since the middle of last season, when I pointed out repeatedly he's regressing, I was told I was crazy. No, Wentz is great. He's winning these close games. He wasn't. He was regressing. But everyone was talking about how great he was. He believed it. He didn't work on things. And he got more and more power in the organization. That's why Rex Ryan is hearing the things he's hearing now about Carson Wentz. Stephen A., do you remember Joe Santaloquito out of Philadelphia? He wrote an article on Wentz. He was kind to Wentz and the Eagles. He wasn't hard on them. We did it on the show. He was just pointing out, this is a problem that's going on. And instead of the Eagles addressing that, they try to silence the media. They try to silence the little guys who are saying, hey, we're kind of Eagles fans in the local press. We're a little concerned about that. They try to step on those guys. No, everything's fine. Everything wasn't fine, and it's not fine now. Stephen A., compare Aaron Rodgers, what his cap hit means, what's around him, etc., and how he did yesterday to Carson Wentz, who has a bigger cap hit than Aaron Rodgers. If you try to cut Wentz, it's $60 million in dead money. You can't.
$59 million.
If you try to trade him, someone's got to take on that contract. You can't. Look at how Rodgers moves the pocket, manipulates things, uses his legs to keep, versus Wentz with his head down. Everything is wrong with Wentz. His mechanics, his decision-making, his confidence, his pocket presence, his internal clock, everything.
You keep saying that. You keep saying that. And I'm saying to you, no, you're not absolving Doug Peterson completely. But damn it, you're not giving him enough blame. What are you doing? Listen, as we sit here, look, hold on, Max. You know me and how I am about the paucity of black coaches, how certain black coaches deserve more opportunities, more looks, etc. You know how much it hurts my heart to talk about the inevitability that's associated with Anthony Lynn with the Los Angeles Chargers, because it's just a horrendous performance. Yes. What I'm saying to you is this, though.
Right there.
Listen, what I'm saying to you is this. What are you supposed to do? If you're the head coach and somebody regresses that much under your watch, it's got to be because you ain't coaching them. There's nobody that gets that considerably worse.
If you believe two things, if you believe that the quarterback has a direct line to the owner, if you can't do things like choose your staff and stuff like that, maybe you're scared to make a move. That's still on Peterson. I'm saying get rid of him. But I'm glad you brought up the racial issue here. Remember Donovan McNabb when he sounded salty, when he was mad about Pennsylvania?
I brought that up months ago.
McNabb, who was way better than Wentz. Would Donovan McNabb ever been able to play through all these mistakes? No. We know he wouldn't because we have a record of what happened. He was sat down. Wentz was not. So I understand your point about racial disparity in coaching. What about with quarterbacks?
Well, I mentioned it. That's what I mean. That's why I was getting crucified about on First Take months ago, because I brought up how if this were Donovan McNabb, what would we be saying? What would we be doing? And oh, by the way, we would have
nothing because he'd be benched.
They would have pointed the finger. I tell you this much: they would have pointed the finger a little bit more at Andy Reid too. I don't know why. You got to point the finger at Peterson. You got to.
All right, I'll leave you guys with this. Carson has the largest guarantee in the NFL next season, over $25 million. Much more to come here on First Take. Buckle up for this next.